This cartoon appeared in the Australian newspaper on Thursday, which of course prompted the outrage industry to go full retard and call for it to be censored, and to shame and to threaten companies to pull their advertising from the newspaper. Because this is what the left does. They act like hysterical children when they see things they don't agree with, which in and of itself wouldn't be so bad, but then enabled by a mainstream media that feeds on and encourages outrage, seek to censor, to shut down and to ban, because they don't believe in freedom of speech, because they only believe in free speech as long as it's speech they approve of. Now, for those of you who haven't followed this debate and aren't sure what this cartoon is about, it's in reference to the recent Royal Commission into the Northern Territory Youth Detention System, which I've made 2 videos on, and I encourage you to watch those if you haven't already. But the short version is this. This Royal Commission into Youth Detention in the Northern Territory does not and will not address the underlying problems in Indigenous communities that gives rise to the disproportionately high rates of incarceration of Indigenous youths. So armed with that knowledge, the context of Bill Leake's cartoon is obvious. Here is an Aboriginal youth being returned to his father by a policeman, who implores the father to teach the boy some personal responsibility. And the father agrees, but doesn't remember what his name is, which speaks to the very real and large problem of child abuse, neglect and violence in Northern Territory Indigenous communities. Now, no doubt this cartoon is confronting, and it's meant to be, and this is the talent of a good cartoonist, to encapsulate an issue so succinctly in a single image and make people think about it. And it's great for another reason, because it separates those who are interested and capable of having an adult conversation about an issue from the emotional infants that want to jump on the outrage bandwagon, shut down debate, and virtue signal to their echo chamber. And this is evident in the criticism of the cartoon. Take, for example, the online rag that barely anyone reads, New Matilda, which asserts, quote, "A punter's guide to Bill Leake, the Oz and the companies that finance their racism." Quote, "Rather than apologise for the racist cartoon in yesterday's Australian newspaper, Bill Leake and Australia's most unprofitable newspaper have this morning decided to double down, publishing an angry rant from Leake on page 5. And so there you have the social justice weakling argument. Just assert racism. You don't have to supply any evidence. The accusation is enough. Listen and believe. And how about this quote from the unbiased ABC? The New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council said the cartoon was racist and had filed a complaint with the Australian Press Council. Quote, "It was absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. I guess if you repeat it twice, it makes it worse. I can't believe the Australian, a national newspaper, would be so insulting to us as Aboriginal people," the council's chairman Roy R.C. said. Mr. R.C. said while the paper had published many strong Indigenous affairs stories, the cartoon went too far. This type of cartoon helps no one. In fact, it stokes the fire of racism, and it plays into the stereotypical views of a lot of non-Aboriginal people out there that think Aboriginal people don't have a place in this society. It's so disappointing that they've got this one totally wrong. It's discriminatory, it's racism, and it's just unacceptable. Now, there's nothing of substance here, just an emotional tirade of accusations and assertions without evidence. Just take the idea that this is stereotyping of all Aboriginals. No one who even pays a modicum of attention believes that this is representative of all Aboriginals. For a start, this has come about because of a specific problem in a specific state from specific communities. And if your entire contribution to an argument is to say, not all, and then fold your arms as though your work is done, then know this: you haven't contributed anything to the debate. And that's one of the reasons that makes this cartoon so relevant. It doesn't talk down to people. It doesn't seek to condescend or minimise the issue. And if anyone is racist here, it's Mr. R.C., who presumes to know the racist tendencies of, in his words, a lot of non-Aboriginal people. But let's hear from the cartoonist himself, Bill Leake. Quote, The Guardian Australia's media correspondent Amanda Mead sent me an email yesterday morning telling me the cartoon I had drawn for the same day's paper was being slammed on Twitter and, incredibly, asking me to explain what I was trying to say. While I can accept that a firestorm on Twitter might be of some interest to the Guardian's media correspondent, what I can't understand is that someone in her position would need to have the meaning of a cartoon spelled out for her when it was so glaringly obvious. By lunchtime, a quick Google search showed people working at any number of media organisations all over the country were struggling to understand it too. By enabling tantrum throwers to re-establish their feelings of moral superiority, they can walk away purged, but it doesn't get to the root of their problem. Chronic Truth Aversion Disorder. The CTAD epidemic that is raging unchecked through Australia's social media population is rendering impossible any intelligent debate on serious social issues such as the rampant violence, abuse and neglect of children in remote Indigenous communities. Before the howls of outrage and accusations of racism that were directed at me started filtering through into my Twitter-free world yesterday, I received an email from Anthony Dillon, whose father Colin was Australia's first Aboriginal policeman and whose evidence was pivotal to the Fitzgerald inquiry into police corruption in Queensland, congratulating me on the cartoon. So, Amanda, in answer to your question, I was trying to say that if you think things are pretty crook for the children locked up in the Northern Territory's Dondale Youth Detention Centre, you should have a look at the homes they came from. Then you might understand why so many of them finished up there. And that's exactly the message from Warren Mundine that I highlighted in my second video on the Northern Territory Youth Detention System. But back to the fright bats at New Matilda. They've decided to go on a campaign of asking their readers to write to companies and shame them about advertising in the Australian newspaper and threatening to boycott them. One high-profile company seems to have decided that virtue signalling is more important than honest debate. Quote, a spokeswoman for Suncorp Bank confirmed the bank had removed its advertising from the Australian. We have removed our advertising from the content and have temporarily suspended any future placements, she said. So if you're a Suncorp customer and you feel as strongly as I do about free speech and freedom of expression, then I encourage you to vote with your wallet and boycott Suncorp. Take your banking and insurance needs elsewhere and let them know why you're doing it. Because the larger issue here is really freedom of speech. Now, even if you engage with this cartoon and the issues it seeks to explore honestly and objectively, you may still decide that it's racist and or offensive. And that's fine. But if you believe in free speech and freedom of expression, then you have to believe in it for everyone, not just the people you agree with.